Today we're going to talk about 3 reasons why you should not do a Roth conversion. Joe, you love Roth IRAs. You always talk about the power of Roth IRAs, right? Correct, but that doesn't mean it's always the right thing to do. I know I've written an article that got featured in Kiplinger with the title of I Love Roth IRAs, but it doesn't apply to everyone. And so we're going to talk about 3 reasons where it does not apply. The first reason, which is most important in my mind, is are you going to be in a higher or lower tax bracket in the future? If you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in the future than you are now, then you want to pay the taxes at the lower rate versus a higher rate today. So that's the idea. Now understand that most people in retirement may not be in that situation. Some will. Everyone tells you will be, but that may not always be the case. It's one of the big misconceptions that we see. And the reason why is because in retirement, you now have Social Security, you now have pensions, you now have IRA withdrawals or RMDs at 72, which can be very, very substantial if you have a large amount in your investment accounts. And all of that can force you to be in the same bracket or higher bracket in the future is what we typically see. But if you are going to be in that situation, you may not want to do a Roth conversion. For example, I had a gentleman, he was making $400,000 a year, but he didn't have as much saved in his investments. So what I told him to do is do not Roth convert. Instead, put more money to your tax-deferred 401k. Try to get more of a deduction now while you're at the higher rates, because when he retires, he's going to be in lower rates. So that's an example of when it would make sense. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you are retired and you don't have a pension and you just have Social Security and you're more frugal and you have less investment accounts, then maybe a Roth conversion doesn't make sense because maybe your withdrawals from your investment accounts will keep you in the 0% bracket or keep you in the lower brackets for the rest of your life. So that's point number 1, is to understand where do you sit currently and where you're going to sit in the future. Point number 2 is when it comes to legacy planning. So for example, you may be in a higher tax bracket today than maybe your kids will be in the future. And so if your kids don't make as much money and you've got all this money coming in retirement, maybe you don't want to convert and pay 24% tax. Maybe you want to bypass converting, just let it defer so that when your kids receive it, maybe they're in the 12% bracket. We'd rather pay 12% than 24%. So that is one example. Another example is maybe you have multiple beneficiaries. Maybe you have 10 beneficiaries that the money's going to go to. Well, if you have $1 million, that's only going to be $100,000 to each child in the future or each beneficiary. Maybe that may not make as big of an impact in their situation. And so those are reasons why maybe we don't Roth convert if the beneficiary is going to be in a lower tax bracket than us. The third reason why you should not Roth convert is if you are charitable-minded. If you are charitable-minded, if you leave money behind in an IRA to a charity, what happens? It's tax-free. So why would you move it to a Roth and pay the taxes now and then give the Roth to the charity when it's already tax-free, right? You paid the taxes for no reason. The other thing when you're charitable-minded is if you're 70 and a half or you're older, you can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. This means you take money from your IRA and send it to the charity. And so that would be a reason also, if you plan on just taking your RMD every single year and giving it all to the charity, well, it may not make a lot of sense to do a big Roth conversion or as much of a Roth conversion if that's the case. So there you go. There are 3 reasons why you should not do Roth conversions.